our job at Skift in many ways is to say the things that you can't say, or know the things that others don't know, but we can directly then relate. Grounded in reporting and not willy-nilly becoming personal and sort of personal attacks and that type of stuff.
Welcome to Behind the Stays, a podcast that shares the stories behind your favorite boutique hotels, short-term rentals, and hospitality brands, and the hosts, operators, and entrepreneurs who've brought them to life. Every Tuesday and Friday, you'll meet the military veterans, the retired flight attendants, the tech entrepreneurs, the school teachers, the single moms, the hoteliers, and real estate investors, who are all, in their own unique ways, shaping the future of travel and hospitality. Discover how these visionaries from all over the world have built stunning landscape hotels in the mountains, designed bohemian bungalows on the beach, erected eclectic, off-grid, nature-immersed escapes, and so much more. Behind the Stays is brought to you by Journey, a first-of-its-kind loyalty program that brings together an alliance of the world's top independently owned and operated stays and allows travelers to earn points and perks on boutique hotels, vacation rentals, tree houses, ski chalets, glamping experiences, and so much more. And I'm your host, Zach Boozy-Cruz, head of the Journey Alliance. All right, friends, without further ado, enjoy the show. What if the future of storytelling isn't about bigger platforms, but about sharper taste? And what if the real shift happening in media isn't just an economic one, but a moral one? Today, you're about to meet Rafat Ali, founder and CEO of Skift, one of the most respected travel media brands in the world. But his story didn't start there. Rafat grew up in India, a shy kid who stuttered, and somehow he ended up rewriting his future with nothing but words and a relentless eye for what others seemed to miss. He went from studying engineering to working for tech media icon Jason Calacanis during the first .com boom, to later building Skift into a brand so trusted that today's CEOs and world leaders in travel cross conference halls just to get a bro hug from him. In this conversation, Rafat shares why legacy media is collapsing, what too many creators get wrong about influence, and how AI and independent media are redrawing the map faster than most even realize. We talk about why design, and not data, will be the real differentiator in the next chapter of content. We dive into the hidden risks of audience capture, and why building something truly enduring requires the courage to be misunderstood for a while. And we explore why Rafat believes the next great media empires won't be built by corporations, but by people building with instinct, action, and radical authenticity. If you care about the future of media, if you're trying to build anything magnetic, or if you just want a rare look inside the mind of one of the industry's true visionaries, you're in the right place. All right, friends, without further ado, get ready to meet Rafat. All right, Rafat, we are live. Welcome to the show. How are you doing this fine morning?
Hey, Zach. Well, outside of my allergies, I'm doing very well. Beautiful day. Summer has finally started. A long time coming. Spring has finally started. Long time coming in New York. And I'm based here in New York. I know you're in DC. We're both pollen laden. And so, yeah, that's, but it's, as you know, very, very crazy, interesting times. And I'm sure the same for you since you're a storyteller. It's filled with stories right now. As much as businesses slow down or hurt or like COVID happened, obviously. And so it's just a story filled time. So like it's I'm going to say it's probably second biggest story we've been around 13 years of our lifetime after COVID.
Wow. I mean, and I want to get into all of this because you have an impressive story in your own right. Obviously, the story of Skift is one that I've sort of been able to piecemeal a little bit together, but I've never heard from the horse's mouth, right? Like the origin story. So I'm excited to get into all of that. But one of my favorite questions, Rafat, that I don't ask everyone that comes on the show, but I felt like I was inspired to ask you was if I were to crash a happy hour with you and your closest friends, like the people that know you best, maybe it's your family, maybe it's friends from college, right? Maybe it's your current colleagues at Skift. And if I were to ask somebody, if I were to lean over and say, hey, tell me about Rafat, like what makes him tick or what's interesting about him? What do you think like the first thing somebody might say about you is? And or is there like a story that, again, somebody that knows you really well might
Yeah.
immediately tell me?
One word.
Or a word, or no, just descriptors like, oh,
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
like this, or he's like
Okay.
that, or he's like if X meets
I
Y.
I hope that's what they say. Personable, direct, and intense.
Oh, wow.
Um, so
Personal, direct, and intense.
well, because like intense many times does not come with personable.
That's true.
Um, the one, well, I shouldn't say his name. Never mind. I won't say his name. He's a very iconic person. Um, intense, but has made a $100 billion plus company. It's very easy to guess who that person is
Yes.
in our
Yes.
industry.
Yes.
He's learned to become more personable. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
But in my case, I sort of am. I think I'm very personable. I try to sort of my first thing with big CEOs that I meet, and certainly now 13 years in, they all know me. But when we were nobody,
Yeah.
was to disarm them with just the I don't know, casualness is the right word, but just general informality.
Hmm.
And so it's so funny now if you see, for instance, a big hotel CEO coming across the aisle, we're running into each other, and there's somebody like other hotel CEO or whatever, somebody. So they're like, hello, they like be formal. And then with the Rafat comes the, hey brother, how are you? Like we're gonna do a bro hug, and so it's so funny because it's just so seamless, and
Yeah.
it's not me doing it; it's them starting it,
Yeah.
assuming that that I'm sort of in that, I have that vibe. So,
Yeah.
um, uh, and then intense because you have to be, because this we love this shit. I mean,
Yeah.
travel is something that I've been doing now for 13 years. I didn't come from this industry. I guess we'll chat a little bit, but I think that's a longer descriptor than you wanted. But
No.
and direct, like I
Yeah.
will probably we were talking about our kids. Within 20 minutes of us chatting about our kids, and especially if you are, you look young, but if you were older, let's say in your late 30s to early 40s, I would give you unsolicited advice to freeze eggs um, within 20 minutes.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Wow. I mean, dude, I love that. And you know what's funny about people like you? Again, we just met, but from what you just shared, is that I think at the end of the day, most, maybe not all, but I think most people want that kind of a conversation. Maybe they don't want to be told to freeze their eggs, but they want somebody who's just so unapologetically themselves, because it gives you the permission to be unapologetically
yeah,
yourself,
yeah.
and yet it's
I've
it's
gone
hard to
through
come
this
by.
journey. I mean, I'm usually, if I'm older than these folks,
Yeah.
typically, if I am, I turned 50 last year. I'm about to turn 51 tomorrow.
Oh, happy early birthday.
Thank you. And so I happen to be flying tomorrow later, but at least in the day I'll be here. Um, and if I'm old, and I've gone through a lot of those journeys, if you've gone through an IVF journey, if you've gone through older parent journey, or in my case adoption journey, like a mix of all of those. And
Yeah.
so and these are known things. It's not like they're I don't, I hope I don't overshare, but
No.
on social media, but I share enough. I do certainly sort of stop at it. I know how to, being in media, I know what boundaries to push, where to stop, that type of stuff. Most of the time, of course, we make mistakes.
Yeah.
um, so I think from that perspective, they all know that I hate the phrase, but I'm going to say it anyway, authentic enough to like say what I feel.
Yeah.
And what I our job at Skift in many ways is to say the things that you can't say,
Mm. Yeah.
um,
Mm.
or know the things that others don't know, but we can directly then relate,
Yeah.
um, with grounded in reporting, um, and not willy nilly becoming personal, and sort of personal attacks and that type of stuff. Because we at on Skift certainly we don't do that, but my own direct channels on, particularly these days, LinkedIn, because I'm off Twitter now, which is a huge achievement in life. I mean, we can talk about that. It's just such a huge achievement in life. at the start of this year. And it's not because of Elon Musk. It's not because of it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I have sort of a mixed view, as a lot of us have, of him.
Mm,
Hugely appreciative of just his phenomenal talent. And but it's just because we adopted our third kid, daughter, end of December,
wow.
brought her back. I was my wife and I both took leave from work, and so I just had to um, disconnect. 5 weeks for me and longer for her, and so it was tough. That was a tough first
Yeah.
week. First week was really tough. After that, it kicked in, and then it's early January, like literally first week of Jan, and that's it. I'm done.
Wow. Wow.
So my
Yeah.
last tweet is around like January 6th or something, if I remember right.
Okay.
Um,
Iconic day. Yeah.
Iconic day, and about racism, and or there was some billboard here in Astoria about immigrants, and somebody said "Go back home." Somebody scribbled "Go back home"
Ah,
on it, so it's a photo of that, and then I have a
jeez.
bit of a post on it. Anyway, long story short, what was your question? Um,
I don't even remember. No, no. I think ultimately, like, what's been most revealing about this is just getting inside your head and how you think and how you see the world, right? And the kind of reporting, or at least how that might influence how you've
yeah,
built
100%.
Skift
I
and
mean,
your
Skift
approach to
is
reporting.
very much in my image. I've said this when I launched Skift, like everything I had done in life until the point I launched Skift had made me ready to launch Skift at that point.
Wow. So
Um,
that's actually a perfect segue because I want to hear. So you, if my internet sleuthing serves me correctly, you studied engineering in India, then you studied journalism at I believe Indiana University.
yeah,
That seems sort of like a crazy
complete.
not a complete shift. So like what is the story there? How did you get passionate about journalism? And then obviously, right, what's underpinning at least your journey with Skift is you're the founder and CEO. So you've got this entrepreneurial bug that has clearly been a part of you and or has been of interest to you for a while. So give us the through line here.
Yeah,
How do these all connect?
yeah. I'll try to keep it short enough at least. And so, born in UK, so I'm technically British. My parents are Indians. I'm Indian. Um, and I didn't have a. I had an Indian passport till I was 24, and then claimed my British passport to come to US for my master's at IU that you said, and I became a computer engineer. Finished in '96. So back in the days in India, at least, the developers weren't the rock stars that they are
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
It was the life then was at an Indian outsourcing firm, sitting behind coding, like a
Hmm.
desk and coding. So it
Yeah.
felt very constrictive, and I didn't. I went into the engineering because my parents. Again, this is very Indian. You become a doctor, engineer, um, lawyer. It's changed now,
Yeah.
but back in the days.
Yeah.
And so I went into the. That was the last time they forced me to do anything. And so, to their credit, they sort of say, "Do whatever you want after," and have not pressured me since. And so, when moved into, I really got in love with advertising industry,
Hmm.
copywriting and stuff, and moved to Delhi from this town that I did my engineering, a small town 3 hours north of Delhi or south of Delhi, um, and failed miserably at becoming a copywriter, and then moved into PR. Um, absolutely hated PR, but got
Really?
exposed to journalism on the other end because our job was working with journalists. This was pre-internet in India. It's 97, 98, but in India it's still pre-web was coming in, but it wasn't like I was sending or things through email and stuff. It was
Yeah.
physically going and handing press releases, printed press releases. I mean, I was junior, I was starting, right?
Yeah.
I was the
Yeah.
one in Delhi heat in the summer taking buses and in huge like very dirty and polluted buses, and general pollution was going into these buildings of the biggest newspapers. You could just walk in. Now you can't, but back in
Wow.
the days you could, and just go to the desk of the journalist that you want to talk to and give them a press release about Nokia or Motorola entering India. So it was a very tech focused thing. So I realized the action was in US, internet was happening here. And so I applied to 5 schools for my journalism because that's what I wanted to do when I got exposed to the journalists. And
Do you remember, sorry, real fast on that, do you remember what it was about your exposure to journalists that made you interested in becoming one? Like what
so,
specifically?
the advertising thing that I failed at becoming
Yeah.
copywriter, I applied to a B2B magazine called A&M Advertise, short for Advertising Marketing, was the ad age of India.
Ah, okay. Okay.
It's long since died, like at this point, 25 years ago, I think it died. But it was a monthly, I think a bi-weekly or something, I forget what it was. Um, I got, so I said, if I can't be in advertising, I can write about advertising
Yeah.
because I had knowledge about advertising. I read a lot of books and magazine. I used to read A&M, the magazine,
Mm,
and so I wrote a letter to the editor. One of the things that stood me well in life, as a, I guess, as a writer, you could call it a storyteller these days, I guess,
yeah.
is that I've always gotten out of situations most of the times by writing my way out of it,
Mm,
convincing people with my writing.
mm,
My
mm.
voice comes through the writing. Many instances, this is one of them where where when I mailed, physical mailed a printed letter to the editor there, he couldn't believe that one, I wrote it. He thought it was like I had somebody else write it. Obviously, this these days would be AI, but that was just somebody else wrote it. So he called me in for curiosity's sake, and so, um, and my salary was like just horrendous salary
Yeah.
as an entry level journalist, and my parents had to send me some money to supplement for me to survive in Delhi. So, um, and then a few other instances where writing has usually saved me from bad situations or given me opportunities.
Mm.
Not always could get out of bad stuff, but get into good stuff. Um,
Do you
personal,
argue? Do you think it was like are you just a really great arguer with a pen? You feel like you can be better understood with a pen, or
yeah,
what do you think that
yeah.
is?
So I used to stammer, what I think you guys call stutter,
Mm,
till I was 17.
really? Okay. Wow.
And so what that did was that, one, I developed a wider vocabulary because I used to get stuck on certain words.
Yeah.
So I used to come up with alternative words.
Huh.
Um, and a couple of things are interesting. In India, I grew up in India, so Hindi is where I used to stammer in. And when I switched to English, because I went to an English convent school, I was less. I was stammering less.
Huh. Interesting.
and
Wow.
um and so when I was a quiet kid, I had asthma as a kid. I still have, but now it's very minor, thankfully. As soon as I moved to US, it sort of magically disappeared.
Wow.
Whatever the pollen there was, and in summer, like right now, April would be deadly. It's when it came. um, so I don't go back in April ever. March I do, but right when April starts, I'm out. And so, um, so I developed this vocabulary that then translated into written English.
Mm,
That you can see the true line now. I'm 50. I'm turning. I'm mentioned 50. I'm turning 51 tomorrow. So, and um, media writing, my voice is very much initially a written voice. Now it's over a period of time. Like in my first company, this is my second company.
mm,
My first company, we did conferences similar to what we do at Skift, and I was on stage, but I never was alone on stage. I was only just moderating panels.
mm, mm-hmm, mm.
I was only comfortable doing that. I
Yeah.
wasn't comfortable on stage alone talking and conversing with people. It's only at Skift where I developed over a period of time this very natural, if I can say so myself, presence on stage, where the switch that I made in my head over a period of time was that this is my house.
Mm,
I've invited you in,
mm.
so why should I be scared?
Yeah.
I'm actually a little hesitant going on other people's stages.
Mm.
Not hesitant, there's a little bit of nervousness there. But on my stage, like I'm jumping on the stage and it's my stage. I have literally, I know it sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I have absolutely zero butterflies. And my own house is my house.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
invited you in.
Yeah.
So
Everyone's playing by your rules. Yeah.
everybody's playing by our rules, and also we make them feel very we try
Yeah. Yeah.
very comfortable. Um, a lot of if you talk to my team, or if you talk to people who know my team, they will say that a lot of you are in, if not in Rafat's image, in at least Rafat's hospitality image.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. That's the compliment, I'd assume.
Yeah, and you are in the hospitality world, so you'll appreciate this. I feel like we've embraced unknowingly over a period of time the boutique hospitality philosophy,
Hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
very custom, very personable, cool, casual sort of, but with like intent. This is casual, but there's a lot of thought that has gone into making this way.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Um, Pally House, which is a brand that I really, which I really like, and I've stayed in there, Santa Monica,
Hmm.
long time ago. Avi Brosh, who we
Yeah.
know well, he spoke at actually the first Skift uh, conference ever, Skift
Wow.
Global Forum in 2014 on stage, because I'd stayed at I used to live in Santa Monica back. Anyway, I'm jumping all over the place, but hospitality in many ways, I feel like obviously we cover it.
Yep.
It's probably the biggest part of what we cover at Skift. We cover all of travel, as you know,
Yep.
hotels, short-term rentals, hospitality meets online travel is
Yep.
our biggest thing. It's the biggest part of the industry in terms of just the sheer number of players. It's global, and it's very, just the number of players are a lot. So we've embraced that. Yes, people know us for our tech forwardness,
Yeah.
but also understanding of hospitality and experiences world quite
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So I think that's, in many ways, become, we've learned a lot. I think not by intention, but just by osmosis.
Yeah. And observation, I think. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't that anything was wrong. No, not really. It was just, I don't know, life. The kids were young, so full of life, but always needing more. Their careers were oh so demanding, and it always felt like saying no was just never an option. And somewhere in between it all, they had misplaced each other. The bickering had become more frequent, the patience thinner, vulnerability a rare guest, romance something that they promised that they'd get back to eventually, but eventually never came until here. At first, it was just a drink at the lobby bar. It's designed so effortlessly intimate, it made conversation feel natural again. Then a slow walk through the garden, up to their handcrafted safari tent, where a cellist played a song that neither of them recognized, but somehow felt like home. And then, without thinking, their hands found each other. Without effort, without expectation. And suddenly, they were laughing, like they had on a second date at the coffee shop downtown that no longer existed. They were complaining about each other's mothers like they had on the cobblestone street in Rome under St. Peter's shadow. It wasn't an escape from reality. It was, in fact, their truest reality. It was them. At Journey, we're building a collection of stays that inspire reconnection. Do you know a hotel, a treehouse, a ski chalet, or other soulful property that has inspired you to reconnect? If so, share it with me at zach@journey.com. So you get your master's in journalism, and then at what point in time, like, do you ever go and do you work at a mainstream
So
media publication?
I never worked in mainstream. So I did
Yeah,
work at a couple of industry pub. So I was one of those that came out of journalism school and said I want to do only want to do B2B media,
yeah,
which is very rare because everybody has aspirations of the New York Times or New Yorker, that type
yep.
of thing, and then you end up accidentally in B2B. Almost always the case. I was, because I worked at A&M, as I mentioned to you. Even then, when I wanted to go into A&M, it was a B2B publication.
Yeah,
So I was one of those where I'm a sort of an entrepreneur. One, I'm an instinctive entrepreneur, so I'm not a data-led entrepreneur. I'm a very instinctive entrepreneur. My co-founder Jason is data-led, thankfully, because at least one
You
of
need
us,
the balance. You need the balance.
yeah,
Yeah.
one of us better be. If you ask me what traffic is on Skift last month, I would not know.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I'll have to message him and he'll give me the answer.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and so, I mean, I have a sense of what the ballpark is, but I don't know what the month-to-month numbers are. I probably should, honestly,
But
and
that clearly doesn't drive you.
no, a lot of it is our my instinctive understanding of people's media consumption habits, because I'm a sort of a creator of media. Um, the YouTube creator phenomena is the one that I've been telling people for at least since the start of COVID. I said it's all moving to video. I'm talking about podcasting, not
Yeah.
all moving to video is a true statement in any general context, but podcasting. I was the All In podcast, which is very popular
Yep.
now. Jason happens to be I used to work for Jason.
No way.
I was the managing editor for Silicon Alley. I was the
No
last
way.
managing editor for the Silicon Alley Reporter that
That's
he
hilarious.
in New York. Yeah, he took a chance on me and has become a good friend now. Um, and he invested in Skift as well. So
Okay. Wow.
angel investor, we raised about 3.2 or something million, and so he's invested. It's a small amount, but he's very helpful whenever I need him. I mean, I don't need him per se, but if I email the investor update, and he almost always is the one that responds,
Wow.
almost always,
Wow.
or always, and even if it's short, like 2 words or one line, because he's busy. Now he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
So he came and him and Brad Gerstner came and spoke the year before, and he was like mobbed selfies and all this other stuff. It was hilarious and great to see, and of course now even more so, after the Trump in this Trump era.
Yeah.
So so I worked for Jason Calacanis, um, and then moved to London because I was a British citizen and I was having trouble getting visa here. Was there 2 years, moved back to US, to LA, chasing a girl who became my wife, but that lasted about 5 years.
Mm.
No kids then, and now I'm my second and final wife, and 3 kids. And so became a citizen after I think 4 or 5 years, and have and stay and moved from LA to New York, and I came here in 2009. I sold my first company in 2008.
And sorry, and so your first company, so you were working for Jason, and
And
then
I started a blog on the side
okay,
called paidcontent.org. Terrible name.
paidcontent.org.
Yeah,
Okay.
terrible name. .org, you can imagine it wasn't meant to be a company. It was just a personal site.
What
Show,
was like? What did you talk about?
yeah, yeah. Showing my ability that here's what I can cover as a journalist. So I was covering the business back, if you remember, well, you're too young, but after Web 1.0 bubble burst, everybody said, "Oh, you'll have to pay for content," kind of like
Mm,
now,
yeah.
full circle now.
Yep.
Um, and so I was covering that transition from free to paid
Yeah.
using paidcontent.org as a journalist. So I was using the blog tools to do journalism, not to like opine, but to actually do reporting
Yeah.
and like
Interesting.
doing what any journalist does, because I was a journalist.
Yeah.
And I was early onto blogs. When I first came to US in 99, I discovered blogs and I had a personal blog. And so I was probably among the first few hundred bloggers in the world.
Yeah. Wow. That's
Personal
amazing.
blog.
What were
Uh,
you using? What was the what like
so
CMS
Blogger had not
blogger?
launched yet.
Okay. It had
Movable
not.
Type hadn't launched yet.
Wow.
So initially, I think it was just a handmade thing,
Wow.
a PHP thing. And then I think Movable Type launched first and then Blogger launched second. That's my recollection, but I could be mistaken.
Okay. Yeah.
Movable Type, I guess WordPress launched later, much later. There was something called P Machine that launched about the same time as well. So Expression Engine, oh my God, all of those, I used all of those. Um, and And then Drupal came and a bunch of other stuff came
Yeah.
since then. So because I was a computer engineer, I sort of knew a little bit of, I mean, I knew programming, I just never did it. Um, but I knew HTML and CSS and a little bit of like PHP, like a script kiddie. I think they used to call them a script kid, like you used to copy paste from online and just use the thing.
And then tweak if yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And now obviously AI will do everything for you.
Yep.
Um, so so those were the days, and I think I hand built an email delivery system. So newsletter would go out. So it became a blog slash newsletter. So in fact, most of the senior folks in the media industry knew us as an email newsletter
Interesting.
because
Okay.
every day is all blog posts, and these were short blog posts, like a paragraph, two paragraphs, sometimes longer if it was a full story, an interview with somebody, etc. Um, and so all the day's blog posts used to go into the email, and it automatically got sent out RSS feed, and I would edit it. And we hired my first uh, employee, Stacey Kramer. She became the executive editor over a period of time, and was really my co-founder, even though she didn't have the title because she joined later, but still. And I'm still very good friends with her. Um,
So you end up selling, and
we
then
ended up selling to Guardian Media Group in 2006. 2008. We
2008. Okay.
raised a comically low $500,000 Series A
Okay.
because back then the convertible notes didn't exist.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
2006. And so Greycroft, which is Alan Patrickoff, very well known in New York, the godfather of venture capital on East Coast, invested in Apple, AOL, Best Buy, Home Depot, that type of stuff in the 1970s or stuff. He's a legend. Um, he's 90 something now, maybe late 80s, and he's still at it. He's still
Wow.
at it. Um, and so Greycroft, he's now sort of eased off Greycroft, but he took a chance on me, invested in the first Series A. We were out raising our Series B, got term sheets, and even in fact had a binding term sheet with one of the very well-known LA investors for a full 3-4 million or something like that. And then I had to beg him to let me go because
Mm.
Guardian wanted to buy us.
Mm.
And we had to
Mm.
pay them out of the sale amount.
Ah.
So they had the best exit ever
Ah.
possible, zero investment and hundreds of thousands of dollars that came out of my pocket.
Ah.
Um,
Jeez.
for so
Jeez.
that's probably the best return ever in history. Uh,
Free money.
Free money, basically.
Free money.
Yeah,
Free money.
whatever X money I returned to my other investors. Well, it was only one investor. I think it was 5X, so it was not terrible. It was only they were in for 2 years. So
Hey, I would take that. I think a lot of people would take that, especially right now. So,
yeah, yeah,
so,
yeah.
so okay. So, did you already have the idea for Skift, and
No,
did you
no.
sell?
So I
No.
traveled. So 2008 I sold. 2010 is when I left because we had a big earnout.
Okay.
A mistake I will not do again. A
Yeah.
first time entrepreneur is very tied to my personality, even though it was not named Rafat.
Yeah.
It was paidcontent.org, but everybody knew it was me. And we had about 20 employees by the time we sold. And we sold 3 months before the crash,
Mm.
financial crash
Wow.
in 2008.
Yeah.
July 9, 2008 is when I signed the deal. And
Wow.
then they were busy laying off hundreds of people back in UK as everybody was. And so we got from 20 plus people to like down to 11 a year in, and I was like totally tuned out,
Yeah.
switched off. And they said 6 months later, like a year and a half into a 2-year contract, they said, just go, we'll pay you out for the next 6 months.
Wow.
And so I left and then traveled to Iceland a week after the volcano fully stopped. Um, it was planned from before. I
Wow.
didn't know if
Okay.
I was going to be able to go, so I didn't have to move the dates. It just so happened that it did finish. It finished and then came back again and then finished finally, and then that's when I went. And so iPad had just launched like a week before that,
Okay.
first iPad. So I took my iPad and kind of like the gnome is in every photo type
Yeah.
thing. It was like my iPad is in every photo. From, um, and what happened there was that um, this was the first time ever that I was traveling solo on leisure.
Okay.
I came from India. We didn't have like a gap year concept. I was a
Yeah.
I said, a shy kid that was stammered, and first company, I didn't want to be alone on stage and that type of stuff. So I was scared of going. Iceland was safe. Um, and what happened was, I remember I posted a photo on social media. I think it was Twitter or maybe it was Facebook, and people responded to the photo a lot.
Mm.
And I said, like, I can tell the storytelling that I know through photos.
Mm.
People really respond to it, and I have a sense of how to frame photos, um, and a sense being able to. And like the worst question that you always get, and I'm sure if you do photography or whatever through phone, um, what's the lens you used? I said, no, no,
Yeah.
it's not the lens, it's the eye. It's not the
Yeah.
lens, it's the eye.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a metaphor that has direct implications for Skift as a business. Like, it's not the platform; it's the people behind the platform
Mm. Mm.
whose taste defines what we build. This is true in your world too, like very much in hospitality. It's not which company you're part of or this or that. It's the people behind whose taste comes through.
Yeah.
Pali
Yeah.
House, it's Avi, it's his taste comes through.
Yeah.
And it's just that curation. The thing that I love the most about his is like every room is so meticulously detailed. You can feel the love in the walls.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's that philosophy that is the best of the indie world that you exist in.
Yeah.
Um, and it effort it has to effortlessly come through. It
Mm.
cannot be forced. It
Yeah.
cannot be forced. It is you. You have to bring your own voice. It's the biggest cliche. Happens to be true.
Yeah.
Um, fine. It's easier said than done. You assume, oh, this is because you're unconsciously influenced by what you think other people think your voice is
Mm.
versus
Mm.
what your voice is. And
And
so
then that gets reinforced too when somebody says, "Oh,
100%. And then
I
you
like
become
this about
audience
you."
trap.
Yeah.
There's a term in the podcasting world that's coming these days, manosphere world as well. They're all interrelated, as you know, of like, I think it's called audience capture,
Hmm.
where you get into this loop where basically you're serving your audience and you super serve them initially, which works.
Yep.
Then you get into a loop that you cannot get out of it, and then you go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. I
Yep.
feel like All In has unfortunately become that, and I say this with all love for Jason particularly, but I know a little bit of other folks as well.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like some of the stuff has gone off the deep end, and Brad Gerstner smartly said, I'm out. And so
Yeah.
him and Bill Gurley have done their own thing, which is really good. I still enjoy All In when they're back to their specific
Yeah.
tech and economy stuff.
I have hope. I still have hope.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I listen to every episode. Okay, let's get back on track.
Yeah. So okay. So you are in Iceland with your iPad taking photos.
Travel for 2 years. Let me cut it short.
Okay.
2 years, saw how widely travel's tentacles are in the world. Tried to
Yeah.
do a consumer travel startup in sort of an iPad based environment. Uh, Tried to learn about the industry, reading the news sources, and realized how bad the news sources were. And I had experience in B2B, so I said, I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Okay.
Build the Bloomberg of travel. Actually, the first ever deck that I wrote has the word Bloomberg of travel.
Yeah.
It wasn't even
Great
a deck; it
positioning.
was just a Word doc,
Yeah. Yeah.
a Google Doc, and from there, um, it was initially a concept was B2B plus B2C together.
Okay.
Initially would tackle B2B, and then B2C would not be a full consumer, but it would be like super travelers, business travelers, people who love to know the ins and outs of travel.
Yep. Yep.
We weren't able to. We raised a Series Seed and were unable to raise Series A. I failed at it in 2014, famously now because I wrote this article that became viral-ish, to the extent that an article in sort of our world will become viral, and not consumer viral, but industry viral. And the headline was something along the lines of like how I got off the VC addiction
Mm.
and found our way to profits.
Mm. Mm.
I think if you search for VC addiction Skift, that's the article,
That's the
the
okay.
first article you'll land on. It's a very long 5,000 word article. I'm gonna say at the start of 2015, but I think it's 2016. Yeah, it's the start of January 2016 is when I posted it, but I was writing it for like the last 6 months of
And that,
2015.
I mean, now it's cool to say things like that. Back then, not so much. So I mean, you were certainly ahead of the times in terms
I
of
was ahead. Everybody else got
yeah,
the pain later,
yeah.
um, and we got the pain just a few years early. And um, and our first Skift Global Forum idea was hatched in Iceland at our retreat. So Iceland retreat. Sorry, I'm jumping all over the place.
No, it's good. Yeah, hey, you have such a storied history, so that's what we're here
So
for. We're
please,
we're here
please
we're
edit
here to
some
hear
of
it.
this down. Please edit some of this down as much, or rearrange, because I'm in the same world as you are, media. So I know this is a tough one. But the first time I went to Iceland was the retreat. Sorry, the on my own,
Yeah.
2010, the week after. So I traveled for 2 years. Started Skift in 2012 with Jason Clampett, not Jason Calcan. It's Jason Clampett, my co-founder, who now lives in London. He was the editor in chief. He was the editorial guy. I was the business guy.
Okay.
First employee was Dennis Shaw. He's the founding editor
Okay.
as well. And the three of us started it. July 30th, 2012 is when we launched. And it's coming up. The anniversary is coming up, 13th one. And it took off. And the
Who did it take off with first? Like what audience
online travel
gravitated?
people, online travel people.
And these are online travel like agents or at the time
No,
or
no, OT, yeah. So like Kayak at that point was
okay.
independent.
Yep.
Drew was the CMO. Drew's a friend now. Drew Patterson, who's quite well known in the online travel world.
So essentially entrepreneurs that were building travel and or travel adjacent businesses
Correct.
online. That was sort of that core demo that latched
Yeah.
onto this.
Even though our goal always was not to just write about online travel.
Yeah, yeah,
Our
yeah.
goal, and we did. We wrote about all of the boutique indie hospital. Like we were early on design and creative um, coverage of the industry.
Mm,
I was
mm,
very particular about design with Skift because the first company paid content was such a terrible name and it succeeded despite the name and the design, etc. I was on the other end of it. Is like everything has to be. One of the phrases I say quite a lot is like design helps you punch above your weight.
mm, I like
It
that.
it
Yeah,
it it makes it makes people feel like you're bigger than you are.
yeah.
So when you're starting a company, this is true not just in media but every company. Invest in a couple of things. One is good financial advice.
Mm-hmm.
Set up the company the right way, the P&L, whatever, everything, or the cap table and everything. Do not try to save money on that. Do not
Yeah.
go with like a real estate lawyer to help you do this. Go with an actual. And these days, it's become so much easier, so much cheaper. AI tools and all this other stuff. So spend on it, and also don't just depend on AI tools. Human expertise. The second thing is invest in good design.
mm,
If
mm.
you have you better have a sense of design because otherwise, why are you in, I don't know, hospitality?
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, yeah.
And it's
Without.
not just
Yeah.
design of like physical spaces, it's design of just the touch points in all different possible ways. So it's not just, it's experiential design, as you know.
Yep. Yep.
Like your company that you work for, Journey, seems to have a very good sense of design. I can see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it probably, and you're a part of it. So I'm guessing you have it too. So it's this intuitive sense of design, even if we were never trained in design thinking or any of
Yeah.
that stuff.
Where did yellow come from? Because I mean that right in sort of
It's
the
iconic
media space,
now.
it's very iconic now, and it was it's totally like polar opposite. It was a contrarian choice. What inspired yellow?
But this is the first time anybody has ever asked that question.
Oh, well, good.
Because they always ask about how the name Skift came from,
Yeah, yeah.
which is a Norwegian word for shift. And I was trying to buy shift.com from a third party domainer. He was asking $300,000. And I was ready to pay it.
Yeah.
And then he disappeared. So I just said, can we
Was
swear
this?
on this? Can we swear on this
Of
podcast?
course, yes, yes, you can.
I said, fuck that. I'm going to just buy variations of shift.
Yeah.
And so turns out skift.com was available. And it was for $8, whatever, $9. And turns out it was a word called shift or transformation, in this case, sort of transformation of the travel industry. So it worked perfectly.
Yeah.
And so the yellow, I'll give my friend um, Piers Fox, Fawkes. He
That's a cool
ran
name.
this site called PSFK.
PSFK. Okay.
It still exists. It's a design, not design. It's innovation website. Like it hunts innovation. A bunch of these trend hunter, these bunch of these trend hunting sites. He is, I think, the OG. He really is the OG. I think in that
Wow.
he still lives here in New York, so he's still a friend. Um, he had he had purple color. I don't know if it's still purple. I think it's still purple, and it was so, like, every time you saw purple, I thought of him.
Mm, mm.
And so we got inspired by. I got inspired. I don't even know if he knows the story. He should, well, I guess now he will. Um, and we got inspired by that. I got inspired so much by it. Jason and I both got inspired by it so much. The other one we got inspired by, believe it or not, this is totally out of left field as well, is Monocle.
Mm,
So the
mm.
biggest compliment you can give me now, less so, but in early days, if you said, you know what this reminds me of? Monocle. It's,
Yeah.
how did you figure that out? Um, and the reason why Monocle is, one, they have a good sense of design. I don't know if
Yeah.
you read Monocle.
Yeah. Occasionally, not regularly, but yes.
They do cover boutique and experiential
Yeah.
hospitality quite well.
Yep.
But so, one, they have a sense of design and experiential design, but the eclecticness of what they put together, the
Yeah.
package,
Yeah.
what influenced me the most, which is if you can put together eclectic things together. And
Yeah.
Avi does this at Pali quite well. Um, I've mentioned him 3 times now. I better get a call from him. Um, uh, the eclecticness of putting random things together that inspire you not just in that medium, but inspires you cross medium
Yeah.
into totally unrelated things is what, one, inspired me. And when we brought the global forum together, in fact, people also said this reminds us of Monocle,
Mm, mm.
because the eclecticness of the speakers and the formats and everything. And um, I think it became real. Yellow became real when the first global forum was at the New York Times Center in New York. I don't know if you've been to the New York Times Center.
I have not.
Many people have. It's been around for a long time. On 8th Avenue and 40 something. And they have a really good auditorium of 368 seats. I still remember it 14 years later. Um, 11 years later, never mind. Because we sold out, and we had a month before the conference, we sold out our first ever conference. It was
Wow.
amazing. People were buying sponsorships just to get in because they could, otherwise they couldn't get in. And I was trying to find yellow chairs for the stage. And we bought this chair that was very futuristic looking, but very uncomfortable, and tight and tiny, meaning it was not very high on the stage, which
Yeah.
was a mistake. But that was the one I wanted. It had wooden chairs. I would not do wooden ever now. I would have to be like copper or brass or steel, like steel, um, and curvy and like very curvy. And I remember taking a photo in an empty auditorium with the red seats. It has like very red
Yeah.
velvet seats
Yeah.
and yellow popping from the back. I took a photo, and that just stuck in my head and said, okay, this is what we have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. So I want to hear you know you are just really funny in many ways because again you're an engineer by trade. You got into journalism. You are an entrepreneur. Skift is your second media company,
Yeah.
and you folks like Jason Calacanis, who's obviously iconic, and I think one of the things that as J Cal as folks call him, right, should get a lot of credit for is to your earlier point about people that are kind of understand where attention is going and understand where media
He's
needs to go. He's
early in
so good at that.
everything.
He's always early in these things, right?
He may
And
not succeed in everything, but you cannot fault him for
nope,
not being early.
he's
And
he
he's also a
exactly.
survivor.
He is. Oh yeah, yeah.
Like
there's a grit about him, you know?
he's from Brooklyn. I'm
Yeah.
from Queens here. What I say jokingly, but also very admiringly, is like a nuclear annihilation has happened in the world. You
Yeah.
you turn somehow a rock turns and a cockroach comes out of it. That's Jason Calcanis in a good way. In a good way. I don't mean it in like a
Well, hey,
cockroach.
Paul Graham says cockroaches are good too. That's what he called the Airbnb founders back in the day. So hey,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah,
but sorry. So I'm curious because you also seem like somebody who has a really good pulse on, again, not just how to tell good stories, not just where attention is, but you know you're involved and immersed in sort of conversation around tech. Like you've talked about AI several times. I think you
yeah,
guys are having an AI summit in a couple months,
yeah,
right? That Skift is hosting, and so you're very progressive with respect to the future of media, which you don't always find in media, right? Like that's I think a lot of the stereotypes that at least the traditional media operators have had. I'm curious, how do you think about the moment we're in, where independent media is thriving? Maybe you do consider Skift an independent media
yeah, yeah. hundred
brand,
percent. We're in. I mean, we only have we call ourselves Bootstrap Plus.
bootstrapped plus, yes. But I guess my point being, you guys are still, you're a publication. You have journalists that cover the industry, and those journalists publish their content via Skift, right? And so you have that sort of like traditional model. Now, with that, you've launched podcasts, right? You guys have your events. You've got paid content offers, like all good media companies do as well. But I'd love for you to just opine in like the last few minutes that we have together on sort of how you think about the future of media and sort of this intersection between the rise of sort of the independent voice, even, right? So you see sort of the biggest players in media. You think about like the Joe Rogans of the world, obviously, but even like the Megyn Kellys of the world, right? Folks who have like left the quote unquote
Yeah,
establishment,
establishment. Well,
and they're thriving, right? So from your perspective as a media entrepreneur, how do you think through this moment?
yeah. And so I'm the early prototype of somebody who left. I wouldn't say mainstream media, but certainly media,
Yeah.
and struck out on my own. This was obviously my first company, um, and um, I am delighted by it.
Mm,
It
yeah.
is as I said, I finished tweeting. I'm done. If you go to my profile, the one pin that's there, the headline, and I just pulled it up as you were asking me this question because I knew it'd come up. It says the headline. So this is my one and only article that I wrote on Twitter, because you can now write articles if you pay a little more, I think. Um, so the headline is "Obsolete on All Fronts: How Mainstream Media Lost Its Way."
Mm,
And I say they've lost its way along four essential vectors.
mm,
Won't go into it, but and they only understand the first vector.
mm,
So they themselves know they're obsolete now, but
yeah.
they only look at it through only one vector, which is economic,
Yeah.
versus structural, cultural, and moral.
Mm,
So
mm,
sort of it's in the level of deepness, if you will.
yeah.
Is economic is only the shallow part, which is, oh, the business models have changed.
Yeah.
They're beginning to understand a little bit of structural, which you understand because you're an indie media.
Yeah.
Cultural and moral a little more deeper, and cultural I think you would understand as well, because culturally, particularly with the elections, they became obsolete.
Yeah.
Moral is controversial, and not everybody will agree with it, which is fine. Um, and but I certainly think it's the most deepest cut is the moral up, obsolescence, whatever however you pronounce it,
Obviously.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
of media, and I
Yeah.
could not be more happy
Yeah.
um, for the independent media. Not so much happy about people's lives being appended, people's lives becoming obsolete. I am once a journalist, always a journalist. I don't write for Skift. I'm not technically a reporter for Skift. I'm the business owner and run the business along with the team. But once a journalist, always a journalist. These are my people,
Yeah.
and so to see hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of journalists all around the world, if you add all of them, are like obsolete and and no chance of reinvention, too late.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've had people go through our company who we knew when they were leaving that they're obsolete.
Mm,
whether they were leaving on their own volition or leaving for whatever reason. Um, and these are my friends, these are my ex-colleagues, these are people that I know.
Yeah.
And so I'm sad about that part. One of the things I've somehow specialized in over the last 10, 15 years, 20 years is mid-career journalists reaching out to me and say, how do I reinvent myself?
Mm.
And
Mm.
back in the days, I didn't have examples of independent creators. Well, no, I
Yeah.
had my own example, like strike out on your own. A
Yeah.
lot of them were because just because you're obsolete doesn't mean you have to become an entrepreneur, because not everybody is cut out to be on their own.
Yeah.
In fact, most are not, as you know.
Yeah.
Because if everybody's an entrepreneur, who are we going to hire?
Yeah.
Um, and so what I used to say is, like, look at back in those days. He's now the head of publishing at McKinsey. My friend, he's my actually Indiana colleague, many years ahead of me. Raju, Indian origin guy, now obviously American, lives here in New York, and he at News Corp became the head of strategy.
Mm.
So basically went from a managing editor of the Wall Street Journal, something like that, and moved over to the product side. And then, because a lot of these online journalists had a very intuitive sense of product, because they were the ones writing and
Yep.
sometimes even building it.
Yeah.
And then many of them can move into product and or strategy.
Yeah.
So that was a path for many journalists that I used to counsel them. It's like, look at this journalist, look at that journalist. This is the path they've taken. Almost all of them product based. And Jason, my co-founder, was the editor in chief, is now the chief product officer of Skift. So he's
Mm.
set in terms of the transition that he needed to do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, post Skift, unless he was going to start a new company,
It'd be tough.
he
Yeah.
didn't want. He probably does not. I know this for. He would not want to work for a large company as like the chief content officer.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Miserable.
Yeah.
So I think that is why I am happy that another path has opened up.
Yeah.
Um, the tools, I've been saying this for years, and it's more true now than ever. The tools, everything that you need to start your own thing is available now. It was
Yeah.
available 10 years ago as well. Back then, video wasn't a bigger thing. Now it is, and now everything for free, almost free.
Yeah.
So what is stopping you from doing it?
Yeah.
You don't have to start big.
Yeah.
You got to, I mean, like you got to
Yeah.
start somewhere. Action over intent. It's a
Yep.
phrase that in my office, when we had office pre-COVID, as you entered the office from the elevator, fifth floor was ours. It said action over intent
Mm.
right there.
Yeah.
Um, at all times, have a bias for action.
Yeah.
And as an entrepreneur, you know this. Every day we make hundreds of small decisions,
Yeah.
and um, the value of speed in these decisions is more than the mistake that you make, because you can always unravel a lot of these. Most of the mistakes you can unravel unless it's
Yeah.
a big one. And if it's a big one, here's how I think about it. This is true in my personal life, but also in professional life. If there is a mistake or a setback, it almost always, and I'm a believer, as in I'm a religious person myself, but let's put that aside. If you're a believer of any sort,
Yeah.
um, there are better things ahead. There's a reason why you got failure here, because there's a better path ahead.
Yeah.
The universe, forget if you believe in God or not, the universe always figures out a way to point you in the right direction. Your job is to figure out how to listen to it.
Mm. Mm.
And whether it's religious or non-religious or business, um, universe will point you in the right way. Meaning there are better things ahead, even if there's a failure here. So that's
Yeah.
kind of how what I've believed. Um, there's an Indian phrase that I use. People say it's an Indian saying. I don't know if it's Indian as an Indian. Um, is like um, everything is everything ends well, or everything ends well, and if it's everything is well in the end, and if
Everything is
it's
fine
not
in the
well,
end.
it's not the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean, that's such an incredible perspective, and it's very refreshing, quite frankly, to talk to you and understand, hey, the individual sort of that's at the top of industry media the
It's
industry that
amazing. And
we all work in has this perspective, and quite frankly has a candidness to share it. Because
we
I
are
think
worried.
that
I mean, we are worried as much as anybody else is.
yeah,
We are Skift as a brand,
yeah,
but because we've built it with individuals like me as the face of it, at
yeah,
least for now, the primary face of it, we're trying to build other faces into the company. Sarah, our new editor, not new anymore, she's 2 years in almost. Editor in chief has become a personality in herself. Seth, our head of research, has become. I mean, he's certainly become a personality. Dennis Shaw is legendary in the online travel world. So we've tried to put these people, and not just US folks, people in different, because we are a virtual company,
yeah.
90 people in like 15 different countries.
Wow, wow.
And so we try and one of the biggest things that I've tried to tell our US team is don't just talk about American football on our company calls, because nobody else will know what you're talking about. And so the inclusiveness part, as much as DEI gets a bad rap, the I part is probably the best part of it, and the one that you want to hold on to and
Mm,
take forward, even if you
yeah,
don't, if you discard the other parts,
yeah,
even though you shouldn't, you don't have to say it out loud. But inclusivity, which is how do you make sure that the people that you bring in feel included? This is also true for external people in hospitality. This is very much true. Like, how do you make people feel part of what you've built?
yeah,
So that, anyway, I think
yeah.
we are way past our expired.
No, no. This is, I mean, you are an incredible storyteller. You have built something truly remarkable, something that I look up to. I know that many others look up to, and it's again just very refreshing to kind of hear your story, hear aspects, and really these little vignettes of influence along the way. So I am so thankful for you and for taking the time to chat with me today. For our listeners, you can scroll on down to the show notes, and you can go and if you aren't already subscribed to Skiff for whatever reason, be sure you are subscribed.
.com.
Rafat, is there anywhere you'd want folks to go if they want to connect with you? I think, I mean, you're very active on LinkedIn. That's where
Yeah,
I follow you.
now, yeah, I would have said go to Twitter and tweet at me, but now I don't do that. So just Rafat Ali Skift. I think even just with Rafat, you'll come up with my profile. If you try and connect with me and I don't know you from anything, chances are I may or may not. I don't know.
Yeah,
Depends on the day because you're busy and all this other stuff too. But send me a message.
yeah. You're
I
very responsive. You're very active. I
very
appreciate that.
responsive. Yeah,
Yeah,
very responsive. Um, it's my role to be responsive. Like, I still in my signature have CEO, founder, customer service.
mm,
That's my signature.
I like
Um,
that. That's a good one.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so I keep that for a reason to remind myself, less for other people to know, more for it to be a reminder to me.
yeah. Well, thank you for your time, sir. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you, Zach.
Hey friends, thanks for joining us for this episode of Behind the Stays. I'd love to know what you thought of the episode. Feel free to shoot me a DM on Instagram at Behind the Stays or send me an email at zach@joinjourney.com. If this is your first time tuning in, it's a pleasure to have you and we hope to have you back again soon. But if you've been a listener for a while, I'd greatly appreciate if you'd subscribe to the show if you aren't already, and then leave us a rating and review of the show wherever you're streaming this podcast. Oh, and if you know a hotelier or a hospitality entrepreneur that's building something new and novel, I invite you to introduce them to me so that my team and I can discuss bringing them on the show. Again, you can just shoot me an email at zach@joinjourney.com or a DM on Instagram. Behind the Scenes is brought to you by Journey, a next-generation loyalty program built for the modern traveler. We're looking to onboard new boutique hotels, unique stays, and the top vacation rental management companies onto our platform every day. If you're a hospitality entrepreneur who has a stay or a collection of stays with soul, we'd love for you to apply to join our alliance at joinjourney.com/alliance. Again, that's joinjourney.com/alliance. Thanks for being here, y'all. We will see you next time.